Sarah, who had just returned to her hometown in the countryside, received a strange phone call. When the other person started talking, the caller called her mother a crazy woman. She didn't realize it was a mistake until after the conversation ended. At first, Sarah didn't take it seriously. But what happened next completely changed her thoughts. After visiting her sick mother in the hospital that day, she came home and received that strange call again. This time, the other person said her mother was going to kill her and begged Sarah to come to her house to save her. The other person quickly hung up after giving a long address. And here Sarah suddenly realized the address the caller gave was her own house. Was this some kind of prank? Late at night, Sarah slept on the sofa. A sudden noise woke her up. She went to the second floor, where the noise was coming from. Sarah realized that it was the family photo at the end of the corridor that fell to the ground. So she took the hammer and started hitting the nails again. When it smashed into the nail, it suddenly disappeared. She curiously knocked on the wall with her hand. Only then did she realize that the wall sounded empty. So she took another nail and stuck it through the hole. This time she clearly heard the sound of nails falling. Driven by curiosity, she took down the wall. It turned out that there was a basement hidden behind the wall. She dared to go down. She found a cardboard box in the corner. When she opened it, she found a pile of ancient and weird things inside. Then she found an old diary with the first page saying, "Mommy set me on fire." Sarah wanted to continue reading, but a photo that fell from the diary got her attention. It was a photo of a girl, taken on November 26, 1999. When she came out of the basement, the phone rang again. When Sarah answered, the other person shouted with a crying voice, "Come and save me. My mom is going to light a fire on me." And then a girl screamed. This time, Sarah was terrified, so she hurriedly closed the curtains. Meanwhile, in the basement of the house, a girl was crying while the mother holds a torch. The weird smoke coming from the stairs during the call scared Sarah. She took out her flashlight and lighted it down into the basement. Sarah saw that a weird fire is coming out of the stairs for no reason, and she is very confused on what is happening. When the phone rang for the third time, the caller sadly said to Sarah, "Why didn't she come to save her?" Sarah is starting to understand the weird thing that is happening. In Sarah's timeline is in the year 2020, while the caller is 1999. She called out the other person's name, which is Lisa. She also mentioned the photo taken on November 26, 1999. But after Lisa heard it, she said that today was only the 18th, 1999, until Sarah explained the contents of the diary. This made Lisa a little flustered. She apologized and hung up the phone. Sarah quickly stopped her. Sarah looked up the major accident on November 18, 1999. Along with Lisa, she told Lisa about the news of a plane crash that will happen on that day. She asked Lisa to contact her after watching the news that evening. The scene shifted to 1999. Lisa was having dinner at that moment, but the plate was filled with strange branches and leaves. Lisa could not eat these things that her mother always prepares. This made her mother angry. She threatened Lisa to eat quickly if she didn't want to go back to the mental hospital or end up like her mother. It turned out that the woman wasn't Lisa's biological mother. Hearing this, Lisa grabbed the things on the plate and stuffed them into her mouth without hesitation. At the same time, the news on the TV matched exactly what Sarah had said about the plane crash. Even the number of injured people was exactly the same. Lisa was a little confused. She quickly called Sarah again. This time, the two finally started talking calmly. Sarah learned that Lisa liked a singer, Kevin Stone. Sarah played Lisa's favorite singer's latest song. They talked like friends who hadn't seen each other in years. They shared their tragic lives with each other. Lisa explained how her stepmother kept her locked up and didn't let her leave the house. Sarah told the story of her father dying in a fire because her mother left the stove on. But as she was talking, Sarah suddenly remembered something. She hurriedly asked Lisa what the date was now. Lisa hung up the phone because her mother arrived. The next day, a group of housekeepers came to Lisa's house. They were from Sarah's family. Lisa realized this from Sarah's stories, and she saw Sarah as a little girl. She quickly called Sarah to tell the news. When Sarah heard her father's voice on the phone, she was so excited that tears welled up in her eyes. Lisa told her she might be able to save her father's life. When the day of her father's accident came, Lisa slipped out while her mother was away. She took the bus to the address Sarah had given her. When she saw Sarah's mother leave, Lisa found the key under the flower pot like Sarah told her. By this time, the fire in the kitchen had started. She managed to open the door with the key. At the same time, Sarah, who was waiting for news by the phone, found a mobile phone in her hand for no reason. The burn scar on her leg started to fade away quickly. Then everything around her began to change. It felt like reality was being reshaped. The next moment, her short and neat hair turned into long, flowing hair. What was once a dark and lonely room became filled with the warmth of home. She rushed out of the house to the garden. She saw her mother, who had been in the advanced stage of brain cancer, now happily humming a tune and watering the flowers. Following her father's voice, he also appeared beside her. Looking at the father who had come back to life, Sarah held onto him tightly. When Sarah received a call from Lisa again, Sarah cried and kept thanking her, but with her parents safe and sound by her side, Sarah began answering the phone less and less. One day, Lisa finally got through to Sarah's phone, but before she could say a word, Sarah asked her to call back later. Then she went on a picnic with her parents in the countryside. But without her knowing, Lisa started calling after dinner. She took a bite of the head of gummy bear candies with every call, until the table was almost full with bitten candies. The call finally connected. This time, Lisa's tone was different from her usual calmness. She started yelling at Sarah, and just when Sarah didn't understand why, the voice of Lisa's stepmother suddenly came from the other side. She told Sarah not to call Lisa again, that it would only bring harm. After hanging up, Lisa was tied up in the basement. At that moment, Lisa seemed to lose control, acting wild and frantic. Her stepmother sprinkled some strange powder on her. Then she took out a bell and circled her. Then she took out a rattan stick and started hitting Lisa repeatedly, until Lisa convulsed and fell to the ground. Then she grabbed her chin and started chanting a spell. At that moment, the stepmother had a vision of Lisa committing multiple murders in the future. On the other side, Sarah waited all night without getting a call from Lisa, so she went online and started searching for information about Lisa. When she entered the address of the house, the message that popped up startled her. Lisa was murdered by her stepmother, and that day was today. So Sarah waited by the phone all day, and then it rang again. When she heard Lisa's voice, Sarah hurriedly told her the news. That night, the stepmother walked into Lisa's room. She approached Lisa's bed. She raised the knife in her hand and swung it without hesitation. But soon she realized something was wrong. Why was there no blood on the knife? She quickly pulled back the blanket, and there was a doll inside. At that moment, Lisa came out from behind the door. Looking at the stepmother who was trying to kill her, Lisa grabbed a fire extinguisher and sprayed it on her stepmother without hesitation. Then she picked up the knife on the ground and swung it at her stepmother without hesitation. After that, she seemed to open the door to a new world. She walked down the long-lost street. She tasted the fried chicken she had long craved. She bought clothes she had never worn before. So much so that when James gave her strawberries, she was almost unrecognizable as Lisa. Seeing James's shy expression, Lisa playfully pulled him into the house. At the same time, 20 years later, Sarah's family also received strawberries sent by James in this timeline. When Sarah enjoyed the strawberry peacefully, the phone suddenly rang. Sarah quickly answered the call. From the other side of the call came a man's cry for help. But the call was quickly disconnected. Then Sarah noticed that the strawberry juice that had just dripped on her clothes was slowly disappearing. She went downstairs and found that James had left. But after asking her parents, they said they didn't know who James was. Sarah rushed to James's strawberry field, but she found it in ruins. She hurried to the police station to ask questions, but she was told that James had died a long time ago. The cause of death in the records said that Lisa had killed him. It turned out that after Lisa pulled James into the house, she brought out the new clothes and she told James that she will just try them on. James took the chance to put the strawberries in the refrigerator, but he accidentally discovered the dismembered body of Lisa's stepmother inside. He froze in shock and felt scared. Lisa then saw this when she came out. As a result, James also ended up as countless plastic bags in the refrigerator. After returning home, Sarah received another call from Lisa. She asked Lisa if she had killed her stepmother and James. This left Lisa stunned for a moment. When Lisa heard Sarah say she was arrested and sentenced to life imprisonment, this made Lisa uneasy for a moment. She asked Sarah to help her find out why she was arrested. Sarah hung up the phone immediately. This made Lisa act like someone possessed. After taking out her frustration on the corpse, she started calling Sarah nonstop. Little did she know that Sarah had unplugged the phone line. She kept tapping and tapping until she was interrupted by a knock at the door. She cautiously opened the door. Only then did she realize it was Sarah and her father when they were young. They were there for Lisa's stepmother to talk to her. Hearing this, Lisa suddenly thought of something. She lied that her stepmother was sleeping. She invited Sarah and her dad into the house. Lisa suddenly sprayed the fire extinguisher and killed Sarah's father in front of young Sarah. The result was that 20 years later, when Sarah was driving her father home, the father in the passenger seat suddenly began to disappear, little by little. After that, the car also began to crumble and disappear until it was completely gone. And Sarah became that short-haired girl again. She rushed home, but she found that the house was now in ruins. On the ground, The words Sarah answered the phone were written in blood. Then the phone rang again. After Sarah answered, she confirmed that Lisa had killed her father. This made Sarah completely furious. She swore to find Lisa and make her pay with blood. But instead, she received Lisa's cruel mockery in return, because Sarah's life was now in her hands. Lisa threatened to kill the young Sarah, which means there would be no Sarah in 20 years. So she gave Sarah an hour to figure out why she had been caught by the police. She even threatened to kill Sarah's mother too. After hanging up the phone, Sarah quickly searched on her phone. Do you think she really gave in? No. She was actually looking for the major incident from that day. After finding the news about an explosion that happened near that area that day, she quickly wrote it down with a pen. When Sarah received a call from Lisa an hour later, Sarah mixed real and fake news to trick Lisa. She told Lisa to go to the nearby greenhouse before 5 o'clock. She said the murder weapon Lisa had thrown away will be found by the police there. And this is the reason Lisa will be caught by the police soon. After hanging up the phone, Lisa went to the greenhouse. But there was still 20 minutes left before the explosion. But as the saying goes, bad people always seem to survive. Lisa looked for the weapon everywhere. Few minutes before the explosion, she was distracted by a strange sound and went outside for a moment. When she was about to return to the greenhouse, she happened to be far enough from the center of the explosion. Meanwhile, unaware of this, Sarah was still in a shock. The phone suddenly rang. After answering, she first heard her own childhood voice. Then Lisa's voice followed. She already knew that Sarah had tricked her. She made Sarah listen to the sound of boiling water. This was her punishment for Sarah's cleverness. As Sarah kept begging for mercy, Lisa poured boiling water on young Sarah's body. At the same time, Sarah, who was on the phone, let out a piercing scream. Burn marks started appearing on her body out of nowhere. Then Lisa told Sarah. Sarah's mother was on her way there at that moment. After hearing this, Sarah couldn't hold back her emotions. She ran to the police station at night, broke the glass, and found the 1999 case file. Inside, she discovered the investigator's name and shared it with Lisa and begged her not to harm her mother. When Sarah destroyed the government records, all traces of Lisa's crime vanished. The ruined house began to change. Dozens of large refrigerators appeared out of nowhere. Panicked, Sarah tried to escape but dropped the file. Picking it up, she noticed a new record. It revealed her mother had reported the crime, and the police searched the house. But the record ended abruptly after her mother answered the phone. The date on it was today. Terrified, Sarah realized she could never return to the house. The past had changed too much. Sarah knew she needed her mother to call first to warn her to escape. She searched the basement and found the phone linked to the past. After waiting anxiously, it finally rang. Sarah picked up and urgently told her mother to leave. But her mother sounded confused and scared. Before Sarah could explain, she realized they were both being hunted by the same person, despite being in different timelines. Both Sarah and her mother ran into the same room in their timelines. Thankfully, they stayed connected by phone. Sarah, trying to stay calm, encouraged her mother to search the house for a weapon. Her heart sank as she listened to her mother's fearful voice. Finally, her mother found a fire extinguisher. Sarah told her to use it to fight back. As Sarah's mother waited for Lisa to enter, she suddenly heard her daughter crying outside. Without hesitation, she opened the door. Her daughter lay on the ground, and Sarah's mother rushed to help her, but Lisa appeared from behind and stabbed her. Despite her injury, Sarah's mother stood up to protect young Sarah. Even though she was hurt, she fought Lisa with everything she had. The fight moved inside the room. In the end, Lisa came out covered in blood, holding a knife. She walked toward young Sarah, ready to strike. Just as Lisa raised the knife, Sarah's mother came out and pushed Lisa down the stairs. In another timeline, Sarah, who had stopped resisting, sat quietly. She watched as the house became old and broken again. Did this mean Lisa was gone for good? Then she ran all the way to her father's grave. She looked at the date of death written there. She knelt on the ground, crying in pain. The next moment, she suddenly heard her mother's voice. She turned around and saw her mother walking toward her, and on her mother's neck, the scars on her mother's hands told the story of how dangerous the fight had been. But luckily, in the end, her mother survived. That's the end of the movie. Thanks for watching.